This video will cover today's online environment, the concept of social engineering, the diverse strategies used by digital attackers to illicitly obtain valuable information, and methods people and organizations can use to defend against those attackers. The Internet is an ever-increasing presence in all aspects of modern society, in business as well as personal life. Proprietary financial information, trade secrets, and other vital data is online and moved via the Internet billions of times a day all over the world. Banking, insurance, and other financial data, as well as personal information such as health records, family photographs, and etc., are all increasingly being stored and transferred online, making them vulnerable to attackers. It's easy to think that your information will not be targeted, but it's critical to remember that if information is valuable to you, it can be stolen and sold to someone else for profit, or used to damage you personally or financially. Social engineering is defined as the psychological manipulation of people into performing acts or divulging information. There are 5 related but distinct social engineering methodologies: phishing, pretexting, baiting, quid pro quo, and tailgating. They're related because they all prey on our natural tendency to help and provide needed information to one another, yet they're distinct in the manner that each methodology goes about exploiting those behaviors. The first methodology is phishing, spelled with a PH. It's the most common form of social engineering because it's usually done via email, over the internet, or on social media sites, and it's therefore very easy to do on a large scale remotely. One example of a recent phishing scam done on a company was users in the company received an email asking them to review a document by clicking on a URL that redirected them to a compromised SharePoint site, which then delivered another malicious URL inside a OneNote document. The second URL sent users to the phishing page disguised as a Microsoft Office 365 landing page that asked for the user's login credentials. Another example could be an email or survey that was sent around on social media sites such as Facebook, which asked users to answer personal questions and forward it on to their friends. In theory, the idea is to share with and learn more about your friends, but in reality, many of these kinds of things are created with the intention of phishing for personal information. The second methodology is pretexting. This requires the most effort and invention by the scammer, as it usually involves actual interaction with the victim or a member of the targeted organization. It can rely on fabricating a scenario and creating a false sense of trust between the scammer and victim. Perhaps the scammer will tell the victim they need to verify a certain piece of sensitive information to confirm the victim's identity. It can also be as simple as putting up a false front to appear legitimate. Maybe the scammer will wear a safety vest and hard hat to look like a maintenance worker and get access to a sensitive area inside an organization. One example occurred when an organization fired an employee but neglected to remove his ID badge from the security system. The disgruntled former employee was able to re-enter the office and infect their network with malware via a USB stick. The third and fourth strategies are baiting and quid pro quo. They're very similar in delivery, but differ in the way that they attract victims. Baiting uses the promise of an item or good to get a victim's information, or to get them to allow an infected file onto their systems. Scammers will post infected torrent files on software pirating websites, and when the torrent is downloaded, so is malware or spyware that may harvest the user's information and send it back to the scammer. Another example occurred when several state and local governments were sent malware-infected CD-ROMs via the U.S. mail. Unsuspecting employees loaded the disks into their workstations and infected the network with bad software. Quid pro quo is similar to baiting, but instead of an item or good, it uses the promise of a service to gain the victim's confidence. One example is when a scammer will pretend to work for the Social Security Administration. They call the victim, explain who they are and that there's been a computer breach, and that they need the victim to confirm their social security number in order to secure their identity profile. The final methodology is called tailgating, and it's fairly uncomplicated. It happens when someone without authorization follows a legitimate employee into a restricted area. Scammers usually try to tailgate into mid-sized or less secure companies that may not have access control measures like key cards, badges, or security personnel. When combating social engineering, it's important to remember that attackers rely on exploiting human psychology, affinity with each other, and our curiosity in order to compromise their targets. Having an awareness of an attacker's strategies can alert their potential victim and help them implement an appropriate defense against an attack. So having said all that, what steps can people and organizations take to defend against social engineering attacks? Do not open email attachments from an unknown, suspicious, or untrustworthy source. If you're not familiar with the sender, do not open, download, or execute any files or email attachments. Do not open an email attachment unless you know what it is, even if it appears to come from a friend or someone you know. Some viruses replicate themselves and spread via email. Stay on the safe side and confirm that the attachment was sent from a trusted source before you open it. Don't open any email attachments if the subject line is questionable. If you think that the attachment may be important to you, always save the file to your hard drive before you open it. Delete chain emails and other spam from your inbox. It's best not to forward or reply to messages like these. Unsolicited, intrusive mail clogs up networks, may contain annoying or offensive content, and may result in security and privacy risks. Be wary of offers from strangers, especially unsolicited offers. Remember, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. One easy way to prevent data theft is by locking your computer to prevent unauthorized access. There are several good reasons why you should do so. Firstly, for privacy reasons. What you have on your computer is your own information and no one else should be able to access it without your consent. Secondly, it helps prevent unwanted inconvenience. Thirdly, it helps to protect confidential communications. A baseline defense against social engineering attacks and other forms of digital espionage is to install antivirus software on all your PCs at home and systems at work. There are many advantages. One is protection from viruses and their transmission. The software can block spam and ads that may cause you inconvenience or have offensive content. The software can defend against hackers and data thieves. It ensures protection from removable devices that may contain malicious software. And finally, it protects your data and all your files. The primary reason why ID cards were introduced was to improve security in organizations. Businesses can control movements in their premises while employees and visitors display badges at all times. Security personnel can also identify the employees or visitors who have access to different rooms or sections during the day. Most identification badges have magnetic strips or RFID chips that enable employees to access each room. It's easy to track movements when security cards are integrated with other security technologies in the facilities. In addition, the ID cards have photos of the rightful owners, which eliminates the possibility of sharing security badges.